Review from the Anfield Wrap then, talking Reds with me, Gareth Roberts and Craig Hannon. It'll be different Anfield Wrappers as we go on, but it's us two today. And the idea is having a chat about what's happening with Liverpool, having a chat about the wider football world, and doing it on a regular basis. So, today, of course, we kick off with Liverpool's results against Chelsea. And there's been a lot of debate since that game about whether it represents a good result or not, whether it represented a good performance or not. Different views on that, and that's the way things will always be. Is it a negative because Liverpool let a lead slip? Is it a good result because they're the current champions? Is it a good result because it continues our good record under Klopp against the bigger sides? All of those things are being debated not only on here but on our podcast. But what's your take on it, Craig? You were there. Did you come out of it feeling elated or deflated?
Definitely. It's frustration. I think it's circumstance. It was the same against Seville. I think they both on the face of it are two good results. A draw against Chelsea is a good result. They are champions. They're on a decent run at the minute. But it's the way it happens, and it's exactly the same with Seville. It's the fact that it is a comeback, the fact that it's a late equaliser, that really leaves you frustrated. Like there's no one leaving that stadium happy with the result at the end of it. Now, if we go on a good run here, if we win our next three, then we look back on that game, we think, yeah, no, that's not bad, draw against Chelsea. But it's just the way it happened. And it's not even that. It's that I could feel it coming. I think we could all feel it coming. Like I turned to Dan and said, I know what's going to happen here, and I turned to you against Seville. Maybe that's me being pessimistic, but it's something that's happened before with this side, and that's what makes it even more frustrating.
I think that's it. I think that's the key to it. It's the context of it. I see lots of people saying, it's a good result, it's not a bad result, Chelsea are a good side, all of that. I understand all of that. But this is the fifth time this season now that Liverpool have dropped points from a winning position. And people are saying, well, we've only lost a couple of games in the league. Again, I understand that. But I think some of the draws that we've had represent drop points. And the worry, of course, is that we start to slip away a little bit. I mean, City is streaking away with the title. We're 14 points behind them now. Man United have gained a little bit of ground on us now. Even Chelsea there, we could have been on the same points as them. Of course, we're not now, if we'd have managed the victory. So there are reasons to be disappointed. There are reasons to be positive as well, though, of course. Some interesting stuff in the papers today about Liverpool. Apparently there's a little fallout between Buvacs and Achterberg. I probably haven't said either of those names correctly, so sorry. But apparently they had a little bit of a row about why Lallana didn't get on the pitch at the same time as Willian. He obviously goes on to score his fluky goal. He didn't mean that. And Lallana doesn't get on the pitch, and then Klopp later is complaining about the referee not allowing a substitution. Paul Joyce reports in the Times that those two fell out because apparently it's up to Achterberg to make the substitution happen, to talk to the fourth official. And someone somewhere, everyone really is a bit pissed off that it didn't happen. Bit of a mad one, that. I think they should all kiss and make up. It's gone now, of course, and we're starting to look ahead to Stoke. Wanted to do a little stat of the day even to this.
Up the Gareth.
You know what I mean?
That's what we'll call this one.
Stat of the day is that Salah obviously has 15 goals for Liverpool now. Clearly a match winner. But are we too reliant on him is the question. He had 7 shots against Chelsea. And no other Liverpool player had more than 2. He's now had 24 shots in the penalty area this season, and no other Liverpool player has had more than 7. So there's a little bit of a question about, are we reaching a point where there's an over-reliance on him, or am I just being a biff?
I'll not answer that question on camera. I think it's the fact that he's getting himself in good positions. He's creating chances for himself. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. You see what he's converting now. He's top goal. Is he still top goal scorer in the Premier League?
10 in the Premier League. Yeah.
So what a start that is. And I think at times last season maybe we were talking about, are we reliant on Sadio Mane? And he's not been playing. Well, he's just come back into the team over the last few games, but he was missing for a while. I don't think we're too reliant on him. I think one of the best things about this Liverpool side is that there are 3 or 4 really dangerous players in the starting lineup every single game that teams have to worry about, and it's just that Salah's on a nice run at the minute. You'd fully expect when Sadio Mane gets back into the starting lineup. Obviously he didn't start at the weekend, but I'd expect once he's playing again regularly that we'll see him scoring and going a little run, and same with Firmino as well. Salah's in a rich frame of form at the minute, and that's something that we should be celebrating, not worrying about, I think.
Yeah, we do have plenty of good footballers, and that is a positive in itself. I think the other thing that is quite interesting out of this game, and last one on this from us in this section, is that Klopp, it was asked about sort of gamesmanship and about sort of character and about, you know, sort of seeing a game out when you're in a winning position, really, which is what people are getting a little bit worried about. Interestingly, he said he would rather basically quit football than to start to employ some of the, you know, the darker arts, really, which Chelsea seem particularly good at: time wasting, feigning injury, all that sort of stuff, really. And I don't know what to make of this one, because I quite like the darker arts of the game, I've got to be honest. I loved players like Mascherano. I love players who, you know, would just do anything really to win. Suarez is another one who obviously comes into that category. And I wonder whether it's a little bit idealistic from Klopp. Maybe he doesn't want to say it in front of cameras and microphones, and that's understandable. But I kind of feel a lot of winners do have an absolute ruthless streak in them, don't they? They'll do anything to win.
I think if Klopp comes out and says, "Oh, I love it, I love the dark arts," then that creates a new headline, that creates a new story for journalists to write. I don't think he's going to come out into the media and say that. I love the dark arts. Even at the weekend, you saw one of the Chelsea players go down. We had a corner, we'd been mounting a little bit of pressure in the first half. He goes down, and the reason he's going down is to try and calm everything down, because the crowd had got up for it. And then when the ref signals over for the physio to come on, he's saying no. So you could see he was just going down just to buy themselves a little bit of time to regroup. I love that. And you talk about Mascherano. Mascherano used to be brilliant at it. Little things. I just think that over the past few years, both under Klopp, both under Rodgers, we've been talking about how this Liverpool side and Liverpool sides in the recent past have been too nice. And I would love someone like Mascherano that just comes in and, like, if he needs to take someone down, if he needs to pull a shirt, if he needs to go down and pretend he's injured, do that. I'm all for that sort of thing.
Well, there's loads more on the Anfield Wrap, as ever. The free podcast that we put out every week is already out there. Neil Atkinson, Rob Gutman, Mel Reddy and Dan Austin, getting into all of those issues that we've touched on there. For subscribers to our subscription podcast, the review of the game will be out as well, which is a second look, a deeper look, taking the emotion out of it when we were all fuming when we come out the ground at the weekend. And then after that, of course, attention turns to Wednesday's game against Stoke, at Stoke. Right now it's not currently forecast to be a wet Wednesday, but give it time and we'll see what happens. But there'll be a preview show, there'll be a show straight after, and then a review show like there is for every single game for subscribers to Talk Wednesday. Okay, we're back. This is the media section, which should also be a regular thing on Talking Reds, where we look at what's in the papers, what's online, and have a bit of a chat about that. So a few things that have taken our eye this morning then. First off, Marko Grujic's agent has told a Serbian newspaper that the player needs to leave on loan in January and to go to another English club rather than abroad. He's made just 13 appearances since moving from Red Star, and he's never started a Premier League game. So I think it's hard to argue with his agent in terms of him needing game time. But at the same time, there's a little alarm bell for me here. A lot of people, I put a tweet out last night saying, you know, all right, the Reds, what would you like us to talk about this week? And people were like, talk about the captain, talk about Jordan Henderson. And I understand that he doesn't float everyone's boat. But at the same time, who are you dropping him for? Like, if Emre Can's injured like he was at the weekend, who's coming into the centre of Liverpool's midfield and doing something? And Grujic is one where I expected by now that he would maybe be coming in at times, coming off the bench. He's been completely bombed out. They must be, they mustn't be impressed at Melwood, basically. And if he goes in, if he goes on loan in January, you can't even use him as an emergency. Then is my worry.
Yeah, he was so impressive when we first signed him in that first pre-season. He kept popping up the goals, and you could just see he was a tidy player. He was big. He's a colossus, actually. And I think this clamour for him to play, I saw a couple of people mention Marko Grujic off the back of this story, and the fact that he should come into the Liverpool side. Well, that's I don't know what that's based on, really. That's based on us actually not knowing much about him and just wanting to see what he can do. I think in terms of going out on loan, it needs to be an English club. I think you saw with Markovic, he was sort of shipped off on loan to Sporting Lisbon, to here, to there. Didn't really work out for him. He goes to Hull, does all right. Who knows where he is now? And I think Marko Grujic needs to find a Premier League club, play regularly, and then we all know what he's about, and then we can have this conversation about whether he should at some stage start in Liverpool's midfield, because if Klopp drops Jordan Henderson and then just sticks Marko Grujic in and he's terrible, what is the point in that? The thing I liked about him was there's a little bit of grit about him. There's a naughty streak to him, which I quite like, because something we've said about the Liverpool centre midfield is they're a bit soft. And Marko Grujic looked as if he liked to get stuck in with a tackle or so, but I think at this stage it's too early to talk about him starting football matches for Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say as a little bit of a counter to that is I almost felt like he was a bit going too far the other way. There's been some suggestion that Klopp thinks he's a bit tactically naive, but also I was watching him when he was getting a chance at times and thinking, this lad's a red card waiting to happen.
But I think if you're only bringing him on for 5 or 10 minutes in a game, and he's a young lad and he's dying to impress because he knows he might not get another 10 minutes until next month, I just felt maybe he was trying a little bit too hard to hit the big tackle for someone to get for Klopp to take notice of how he's doing, and that is naive, but he is young. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Marko Grujic.
The other thing that people asked us to talk about was Everton, which is always a good laugh, isn't it? I mean, I think no matter what we all think about the Reds right now, it's hard not to look over the park and go. I mean, let's go back to the sort of pre-season. They were talking about this power shift. They were talking about our heads falling off. My head's down, lads. And now here they are, front page of all the newspapers today. Well, this is a football section. I'm cheating a little bit. But, there they are in full-blown crisis. David Unsworth, a stressed man. And anyone who sat down on the sofa yesterday and watched Southampton absolutely tear them apart must be going, that they look awful. And even better from our perspective, if I'm being honest, Martin O'Neill. Wow.
Fingers crossed, lads.
So yeah, I mean, if you do pick up the papers today, there's loads in there about Everton, about the crisis they're in. Unsworth claiming that the sacking of former boss Koeman has made no difference to Everton, and now he's starting to blame the players, of course, for this run, which, he might be being honest there, but equally, if you're an Everton player, you might be like, well, this fella's not even the boss, and now he's blaming us. And it just it keeps rolling on it. I mean, I really wouldn't want to be an Evertonian in general, but especially not right now.
It's an absolute shambles on and off the pitch. They've sacked Koeman, and then God knows what's happening, whether they thought they might be able to get Dyche, whether obviously Marco Silva was another one, and they've still not sorted that. I almost feel a little bit sorry for some of the nice Evertonians, but then all of this is very, very enjoyable. And the fact that I don't want to even say it, but they could go down. I've been trying to talk myself out of that so I'm not excited. So I don't get myself too excited, but they could.
They could, but I just think you've got Hodgson kicking round, who's awful. He'll probably take Palace down. You've got Moyes kicking round, who's awful. He'll probably take West Ham down. And then there's only one space left, then, isn't there? And Swansea don't look great. And look, they could, but I think what realistically happens, I think they get someone, whoever that is, they spend a bit of money in January, they find some way of winning football matches.
Spending money didn't go well for them in the summer.
No.
The one summer they actually had money, they've blown that. They've now got players that aren't good enough on long contracts, big wages, and they're relying on whoever does come in to sort of reignite and rejuvenate these players. And Martin O'Neill, even Republic Ireland fans don't want O'Neill. They're not happy with how he's done it. So, and he's a bit. I think he's done now. I just don't understand that. I think if they're going to get someone, they need someone stopgap to get them to the summer, and then look for someone better possibly. But
Tony Pulis, lads, make it happen just for the laughs. Okay, in the Times today, Tony Cascarino there with his weekend talking points. This is what we're going to finish up on. He says that there's one howler in every game from Liverpool. Now what he's talking about here, and this has been another bone of contention for Liverpool fans over the weekend is whether Mignolet should do better with the fluky Willian goal. Now, what Cascarino says is that at least one Liverpool player always seems to make a mistake in a match. He says he's surprised Mignolet doesn't get any blame for Willian's equaliser. He obviously hasn't listened to the Pink, our post-match show, where Mignolet got plenty of blame. But he says, it wasn't hit at pace. He should adjust his feet, and his only excuse can be that he's anticipating a cross. But he should trust his defenders to have control of the area. He says if he hasn't got faith in the men in front of him, perhaps that's because they make so many errors as well. And then he says ultimately the blame lies with Jurgen Klopp, who's had issues with the back five for nearly 2 seasons, and you have to wonder how he cannot see the urgent need to fix it. I mean, on that, Tony, he has bought a keeper. It just turns out that keeper wasn't much better than the one we've already got. He has tried to buy a centre-half, and we royally cocked it up. But what do you make? What did you make of Mignolet? We watched it back about 100 times before, didn't we, in the office?
Do you know, at the time I didn't give any blame to Mignolet coming out of the stadium, but that's because I was at the very back of the Kop at the opposite end of the stadium, and I thought that it was fluky. If Willian tries that the next time, it probably doesn't go in. But there's just always this thing with Mignolet where I just think that he doesn't save things that you don't expect him to see. Do you know what I mean? Like, you look at what De Gea does for United. I've lost count of how many times we played United and De Gea's making save after save to save them and to get them 3 points. And it doesn't ever feel like Mignolet does that for us. And like we watched it, and we must have watched it 10 times there, and he is flat-footed as the ball's hit.
You sort of wonder whether he can take coming back as well. Yeah, can he take more steps back before he throws his arm up? It almost feels like he's throwing his arm up too early. And as Cascarino says, excuse me, it's a floated one. It's not drilled at him. It seems to almost happen in slow motion, and it's obviously not the first time. And maybe this is the problem. Maybe it's a little bit of confirmation bias. But it's not the first time that Mignolet's looked maybe at fault for a goal. Anyway, we can get into that on our podcast. There are loads of them. The AnfieldWrap.com for loads more content, written podcasts, and of course videos like this. Do let us know what you think of this. This is a first crack at a new thing, so put comments in below. What should we be talking about? Is it any good, this? Is it too long? Is it too short? Let us know. We're always up for your feedback. That's been Talking Reds.